Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity, and I rise today in celebration of the first 100 years of the Charles A. Conklin American Legion Post 28 in Grand Haven, Michigan. But before I talk more extensively about Post 28, I do want to acknowledge this past week that very auspicious ceremony and anniversary that was recognized of D-Day. And I joined the bipartisan group led by the Speaker of the House and the Minority Leader to the beaches of Normandy, and to talk with those family members, those veterans who served there on those beaches was an incredibly moving thing, especially for me, the son of a disabled World War II veteran who nearly perished in a B-24 crash in southern Italy. And to just recognize and remember the sacrifices that not only those men that stormed the beaches, but their families endured in the years after that. And I want to just highlight some of the connections that we've had in West Michigan to those efforts. And whether it was the city of Grand Haven, which is where Post 28 lies, that upon the sinking of a merchant marine ship, the Coast Guard cutter, the Escanaba, raised public funds locally to literally build another Escanaba ship, one that has continued that very special tie with Grand Haven and with those members of the VFW Post 28. The Silver Sides, a submarine that saw action in the South Pacific. The LST that resides in Muskegon, that took 31 trips back and forth during that D-Day invasion over those days. That history that we have is rich. And the history that Post 28 has is a history that comes out of World War I, something that we had just celebrated the armistice of in last November, the 100th year anniversary. And my namesake, Bill Huizenga, had the privilege of fighting in that conflict and in that war as well. And I have in my mind this connection that all of those men at that time, over 100 years ago, that they were coming together as a community and they were going off to fight for their country. And for 100 years now, this particular American Legion Post 28 has selflessly, admirably, and honorably served the Grand Haven community with a special focus on veterans and their families. And on June 12th of 1919, how this came about was 35 local veterans returning from this great war gathered at the Grand Haven Armory and signed a petition to become chartered as the Grand Haven American Legion Post 28. They chose as their namesake Charles A. Conklin, who was Grand Haven's first fallen soldier of that war to end all wars. Well, shortly after graduating high school, Charles joined the National Guard as a machine gunner and was part of the prestigious 42nd Rainbow Division. After ferocious fighting on the German front line, Charles was wounded and died on May 7 of 1918. He now rests in peace at Grand Haven's Lake Forest Cemetery, where his courageous spirit continues to inspire local veterans and all of our citizens to carry on his legacy of duty, service, and valor. Well, after witnessing the positive impacts across West Michigan, more veterans and their families wanted to join Post 28, and the Post 28 family first expanded April 9 of 1920 when the Women's Auxiliary Post Unit 28 organized and was chartered. And then for over a century, as they continued to grow, the Sons of the American Legion Squadron 28 was chartered in 1937 and again in 1990. Finally, the American Legion Squadron 28 was organized in 2007, completing the Post 28 family. The American Legion Post 28's steadfast commitment to serving veterans, their families, and the Grand Haven community shines in every act of service that they perform. The long list of charitable and educational programs, including the annual Poppy Sale, the Boys State and Girls State programs that they support, the Goodfellows Committee for Volunteerism, food drives, and their famous salmon dinner night at the Grand Haven's annual Salmon Festival not to mention the thousands of diners that they serve at the Post home on Harbor Drive in Grand Haven, really has underscored their commitment to the community. So, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the 2nd District of Michigan, we want to thank the members of the Charles A. Conklin American Legion Post 28 in Grand Haven for their service to our community over the past century, and I look forward to working with them in the years to come. And I yield back.